Hello everyone, this is Direwolf20 and welcome to part 2 of the Steve's Carts mod spotlight. If you guys haven't seen part 1 yet, go back and check it out. And I'm going to continue along where I left off, showing you some of the other carts and machines available in Steve's Carts. Now before moving along, I want to check on my little AI bot here, the simple AI mining cart. Let's check out how he's doing. Oh yeah, look at this, doing well. Even ran into some diamonds, it looks like. Did he collect any? Yep, he collected a few. Nice. He's got a good amount of fuel stored in here, and he's doing fine with rails. Looks like he's almost out of inventory space, so he should be heading back upstairs in just a little bit. Maybe I can help him along. There we go. Oh, full. So he's going to turn around and head on back upstairs. There he is. And remember, once he gets to the top of the stairwell here, he's going to empty out his inventory. Good job, little guy. Refresh his rail and coal situation, make sure he's got plenty of that stuff ready to go, and then head back down to continue mining. That way. And away he goes, ready to mine some more resources for me. Alright, let's check out a new cart here. We've got the farming cart. This guy, as you can see, is crafted with a hybrid cart and a farming set, which is simply a diamond hoe and a couple pieces of diamonds and some more of those PCB modules that are used for all the intelligent carts. Let's go check it out, shall we? Simply place your farming cart on the track, as you would have expected, and first off, it gets power from the sun, as usual, and you can give it fertilizer and water. Plenty of cool stuff and energy and coal to run on here if you want. So let's get ourselves set up with this guy. So all we got to do is place some seeds in the seed slot and give it some water. You can see that the water level is pretty high. It can store a good amount of water here. Looks like, what, 5 buckets? Yeah, sounds good. And the water here will just help this thing keep the ground hydrated. You can also put some fertilizer if you want, and that's in the form of bone meal or bones. So let's just get some bone meal and place it in there. There we go. It can store a lot of fertilizer, it would seem. And I guess the last piece is just to set him on his way. So if we turn this thing on, and let it start hydrating the ground around it, and it's going to do all kinds of cool stuff. And it'll progress along the way and help to keep things growing. Now the fertilizer it's going to use to help things move along, grow faster, all that cool stuff. And eventually it'll harvest the wheat and place it in these slots right here. Pretty cool. Next up, we've got the track remover. Now remember the builder that builds railcart tracks? Well, this one will remove them. It's pretty simple and straightforward. Just have a line of tracks going on and place your track remover on it. And all you got to do is give it some fuel to run off of, and it'll start picking up tracks behind it. This is a nice way to clean up your rail systems that your builders might have built. Looks like my farming cart is doing a good job of keeping the ground hydrated. You don't have to have water blocks in the middle here, but of course you could if you wanted to, give this thing a little bit less work to do. But otherwise it will fertilize and hydrate the soil for you. Awesome. And once the wheat grows, like I said, it'll land in the wheat slots. Now let's move on to one more piece before we get to the final cart. This guy is called the Detector Manager. He's a pretty cool cart. I've actually got one set up right over here to demonstrate. Now the Detector Manager needs to sit underneath a detector rail, and if you open up the interface you'll note that a lot of the different carts are listed here, and anything that registers as a mine cart in Minecraft Forge will be picked up, which is why you're seeing some of the Batbox, the MFE, and the MFSU carts available on the Detector Manager, and the tank cart also from Railcraft. Now all these carts, you can choose which one of them will cause a redstone signal to emit when it rides over it, so you don't have to have it emit a redstone signal no matter what cart it is. You can say only when, this cart and this cart drive over should you emit a redstone signal. And the vanilla carts are there too. So let's go right now with just this setting. So this regular storage cart is the only cart that will cause the detector rail to get emitting a redstone signal. So let's grab a couple carts. I'll get a standard and a storage cart, chest cart. So if we place the standard there and it rides over, no redstone signal. But a chest cart will emit a redstone signal when it goes over it. Cool. And that block only works when there's a detector, an advanced detector rail on top. Alright guys, so now it's time for the most advanced cart in this mod. This is the piece de resistance, the creme de la creme, the awesomest of the awesome carts this mod has to offer. It is simply called the assembly cart. Dun 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 dun. This guy is crafted using a mining cart with chest, which we've seen, but you also need an advanced device. An advanced device is composed of an advanced PCB, an advanced core, and advanced storage. So we've got our advanced device project table right here. You need an advanced core, which requires 3 diamonds and some gold and some blocks of iron. You're going to need a simple PCB to craft your advanced PCBs, as you can see here. And finally, you need this advanced storage slot here. But all of these components come together to make the assembly cart, which is right here. Let's go place him on the ground and see what he's all about. Whoa! Very complicated looking UI. That looks a little bigger than it should. There we go, just had to adjust my GUI scale a little bit. And we've got the assembly cart. Very complicated cart. This thing is basically a programmable mine cart. You can give it programs to run and all kinds of other crazy stuff to make happen. And the side slots here are basically the inventory of the cart. Both of them are the same inventory even though they're separated. So, it doesn't matter where you place items or where items land. It's the same inventory on both sides. And let me get into the complicated awesomeness that is the assembly cart. Okay, well, unfortunately, due to a bug in the mod, there's no labels on the buttons, and this is pretty much the worst spot that could happen, so I'm going to message the author, but I do want to continue and show you guys how cool this is. So the assembly cart you can program to do all kinds of cool stuff. First off, let's go ahead and create a new program by clicking on this little green plus icon here, and you can give it a name, whatever you want. I'm going to call the program Direwolf1. Sounds like a cool name, right? And just hit the Enter key, and you're good to go. Now the program is coded in the memory here, and you can see you could have multiple programs. You could add another one, and all kinds of different ones actually. Click on your Direwolf1 program, and you can delete it, start it, stop it, and this thingy, which without the tooltip I forget what it is. So now that we've selected our program, we can go ahead and check out the fact that some of these buttons light up over here. The first 3 here are adding individual tasks. Let's check out these in order. The first one, the green one, is for adding a building task. And when we click on it, you can see that we can now get this green little box we can click on. This is the first step of our program now. We're starting to build a program in sequence. So this building task will allow us to build something. So let's check out what it is. You'll see a 5x5 inventory show up over here, and in this grid you can mark what the cart should build when it's running the task. The center block is the block that the cart is on, so by clicking on that, it's going to place a rail in there. And you can place your rail anywhere on one of these inventories, and it's going to use the inventory out of the rails. From there, you can go ahead and place things all around that you can tell it to build and do all kinds of cool stuff with. So let's do something like this. And see what happens when we initiate this program. Now we're going to have to give it some fuel. Okay, so here's my program. I'm telling it place 2 torches on the side of you and then 2 pieces of cobblestone above those. And all I got to do is hit the play button here, and then when it moves on to the next block, it's going to go ahead and place the torches and the cobblestone and then continue along its path. So that's cool. It laid down 1 pizza track and then continued along. So it did exactly what I told it to. Now let's look at the next button here, this yellow button. This is kind of like your control sequence. Here you've got the X, which does nothing, and the first 2 I'm going to go into are these 2 buttons. This is a label button, and if anybody's a programmer knows what that means, it's basically labeling a position in your sequence of code. So I'm going to hit that, and our yellow block now is called a label block, and its label is currently 0. And I could go ahead and bump it up to label 1, 1, label 2, label 3, but I'm going to keep it at label 0 right now. Next, I'm going to create that green sequence again that I had a minute ago. Lay down a piece of rail, lay down some cobble on each side, and then put torches on top of the cobble. Okay? And after that, I'm going to put another yellow button, and this is your go-to block. And I'm going to tell it to go to label 0. Okay, so what this should do is start off here with label 0, make the track pieces that I tell it to, and then it'll move to the next track. Remember, a green indicator here means that it's going to do what it's told and then move to the next track. Then the next piece of code will go to label 0, and it'll proceed again. Go to label 0, proceed again. Let's give it a shot. I'm going to turn on the program here, run, and give this guy a little nudge in this direction. And now he's just repeating over and over exactly what I told him to do. Pretty spiffy. And let's stop the program. And he'll continue along until he hits the detector rail. Awesome. And I don't have to do exactly that. How about we did something like this? I'm going to remove my go-to label, and then I'm going to tell it after you build this, go ahead and build something that looks like, oh, I don't know. How about we tell it to do something like that? And then put the label for go to 0. So now it'll build this guy, move forward, build this, move to the label, and go back to this guy. Let's give it a shot. Where are we at here? Direwolf 1, run the program and give him a nudge forward to get him going. Pretty cool. And let's stop the program. Cool. Now your program doesn't necessarily need to go ahead and place objects. We can break dirts and stuff like that if we have a shovel. You don't have to use a diamond shovel or a pickaxe or anything. You can use any tool that breaks blocks, so shovel, pickaxe, doesn't matter. Just place it in here and place it in any slot that you want the area to be destroyed. So let's say that, for example. Okay, so let's give this guy a run now. So turn on our program and push him forward. Pretty sweet. And note that it's also breaking the blocks on the side of it now because it's been instructed to do so. Awesome. And I'm going to stop my program. It ran out of fuel, that's why it stopped by itself. Okay, so now let's say we've seen already so far how to do one thing. We can place down something and move on to the next block. But what if we wanted to do two things within the same block? That's where we'd use this blue icon for. So remember before I had it going where it's going to place down cobble and torch, move forward, and then dig up. Let's change that up a little bit. I'm going to remove my go-to label here. Get rid of that guy. And after the green block, I'm going to place this blue thing, which is exactly the same as green, except it's going to do its process without moving a block forward. So if we tell it to go ahead and dig up, and then place dirt, like so, and we place torches, well, let's do the torches here. Okay. And then, again, we're going to place the rail in the middle here. It's not needing rail right now, but it would place it moving forward if it needed to. So what this guy should do, after I place my go-to label 0, is it'll place down cobble and torches, move forward, dig out on either side of the rail, and then, without moving forward, place dirt and torches, and then go back to the beginning. Let's give it a shot. So Direwolf 1, run. Torches. Dig out the sides, place the dirt and the torches, and move forward again. So that's the difference between the blue and the green. Some of the other buttons down here, the yellow guy obviously deletes whatever command you have currently made. You can hit this button here to clone the current command, so it just made a copy and it's exactly the same as this one. Okay, and then delete that one. You can also use the left arrow to move a command back and the forward arrow to move a command forward. Okay, and then this button here allows you to create a variable. Now variables in programming allow you to store certain data, so let's create a variable called the variable letter K, or you can name it K-E-R-T, Kurt. Sure, why not? That's a good variable name. Okay, and then enter. So now we've got a variable called Kurt, and you can see if you click this button it shows you the current list of variables. Kurt is equal to 0. We could create another variable called Dyer and hit enter on that guy, and Dyer is now listed as 0. Pretty neat. So that's your current list of variables, and those are useful if you want to do an if command. Okay, and what you could do with the if command is to put a conditional clause where if, okay, so let's do this, if, okay, and there's a bunch of things added once you do if. Once you've defined your if conditional by clicking on it, you use these buttons here and here to change which variable is selected. So right now there's no variable selected for your if condition, it's not going to do anything. But you can click forward and say if Kurt equals 0, or if Dyer equals 0, or go back to Kurt, or no variable selected. So in this case you can say if Kurt equals 0, and then you could change it using this button here, if Kurt equals 1, 2, 3, or 4. And remember that right now Kurt is equal to 0. Okay, so let's say this. We will do this. If Kurt equals 3, okay, then we're going to have a new yellow. No, wait. Yeah. If Kurt equals 3, then go to label 1. Okay. Else, no wait, go to label 1. Else, I'm getting there. We do another one of these yellow guys, and we'll do this button here, which is the set variable command. Okay, we're going to say set Kurt to +1. Alright guys, I figured it would be easier for me to go ahead and write this program off camera and then walk you through it. So, I've pretty much set this up. Label 0. Go ahead and build a cobblestone with torches on top. Move on to the next block. Dig out on the sides and one lower on the sides of your current position. And then on the same block, go ahead and put down some dirt and torches and move forward again. Now, if Kurt, the variable I defined, equals 3, and I did that by changing variables here and adjusting what it needs to be equal to here, +1, -1. And we could also use here to say equals, not equals, greater than or equals, greater than, etc. But I'm going to go with equals 3. Okay. Go to label 1, which is right here, label 1, the end of the program. So what this should do is, if Kurt equals 3, it's going to jump to label 1 and finish the program and not proceed any longer. Otherwise, keep in mind that Kurt currently is equal to 0. Okay? Otherwise, increase Kurt with 1. What I did here is choose this button, which changes the setting to modify a variable, and I chose Kurt with these buttons again, Dyer or Kurt, and I said this button here is called increase with, or this button here is set equal to. So I could have set it to 3, but I'm calling it increase it with 1, then move on to the next step, which is go to label 0, which is here. So what this program should do is run pretty much 3 times, right? It's at 0 now, it's going to get here and say if Kurt is 3, well it's not, so then increase by 1. Kurt will be 1, and then we'll go back here. Increase again, Kurt will be 2, increase again, Kurt will be 3, and then finally it'll get here and it'll say, oh, Kurt's 3. Now I'm going to go to label 1, and that'll exit the program. And hopefully I did that right. Goodness, I hope so. Let's give it a go. So, Direwolf 1, run. Go, buddy. So it places down So Kurt's 0 at this point, right? So it's going to go ahead and say, yeah, Kurt's 0. I'm going to make Kurt 1, and then move forward again. Okay, it's going to get there and say, Kurt's 1, it's not 3 yet. I'm going to go ahead and move forward again. Okay, now it's going to say Kurt is equal to 2 when it gets to a conditional point. So it's still not 3. So I'm going to move forward again. Now Kurt is equal to 3. So the program, I hope, should end at this point. Ta-da! And there's a bunch of other cool stuff you can do with your conditionals. You can check for if a variable equals another variable. So I could say if Kurt equals Dyer. So I could, mess around with the direwolf variable and the Kurt variable and check for them to equal each other out. There's a bunch of different stuff you could do here, and you could really write a nice little program. You could use it for simple, basic, repetitive tasks like I showed you a minute ago, or you could use it for some pretty complex builds. You could really go up to who knows how many lines of code you could have here, basically doing simple executable tasks. And it's all in a nice little click interface, which unfortunately, like I said, doesn't have labels right now, but hopefully that'll get fixed in the next version, and if that does happen, that'll make this a lot easier to use. Now I think I've pretty much covered all the pieces of this program, haven't I? Oh, by the way, look how now Kurt equals 0. Good. Perfect. Awesome. And if I was really being intelligent, I could probably say that the first thing I do here, so I'm going to go ahead and create a new line. This guy, set him all the way to the beginning, before label 0 now, this is important, and I'm going to go variable set Kurt to 0. This way, the first time this program runs, Kurt is set to 0. If I didn't have this here and I tried to run this again, it just wouldn't run at all because Kurt is already set to 3 on this guy. So by setting Kurt to 0 first off, I think that's what I had to do. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's important though. So then it would proceed to label 0, and remember the goto statement here, or here, would go back here. So Kurt setting to 0 would never happen again until the program starts again. So yeah, complicated, but awesome. There's so much you could do with this little cart. I don't think I've even covered it all. Now the final button here that I haven't showed you guys yet is this guy with the lightning bolt. This is called the startup events indicator, and basically you can tell it that when you find or run over a particular cart, or type of track that is, you can start the program. So the default setting here, right here, means that when it runs over an advanced detector rail, it's going to start direwolf 1 program. And the cool thing about that is that this stuff down here, the default is that it won't override other programs. So if there's another program in here, remember you could have multiple programs in this system. Direwolf 1 will get activated when it runs over a blue track. You could have another one called Direwolf 2 that does a completely different set of instructions, and it gets activated when you run over a red track. Okay. Now in the default setting, it won't override other programs, but you can change this with these buttons here, and the tooltips are missing, and it's a little tricky for me to understand the documentation without the tooltips, but there's one setting on whether or not it can override itself. So if it's in the middle of running itself, can it start over again? And the other one is if it can override other programs. So if there's a Direwolf 2 program, it can just stop whatever Direwolf 2 is doing and start up Direwolf 1 when it hits a detector track. That kind of stuff is all pretty complicated, but really makes for some awesome programs. You could have this thing doing multiple tasks under multiple conditions. Really, I think the sky's the limit on what you could do with this assembly cart. It's frankly amazing. I'm just really impressed with it. I think it's awesome. The functionality here is just sweet. So let's go ahead and tell it that when you hit a detector cart, go ahead and start up. And I'm going to get myself some rails here, so let's take care of that, and some advanced detector rails, okay? And we can place them down. And what should happen is as soon as this guy hits the advanced detector rail, and there was one right under it, so let's stop the program right now. It's going to continue along, and then it hit the advanced detector rail. So let's move this guy off of here. Yeah, well, there's a detector rail right there causing me some trouble, but you get the point. The program starts as soon as it hits the detector rail. Pretty cool. And continues along its little path of stuff to do. So I think I need to tell it to, be allowed to interrupt itself. Yeah, that sounds reasonable. So let me change this up. So I've now told it to do a normal detector rail, so that won't mess up anything. So let's give it a push in that direction there. And it shouldn't matter that it's on a normal detector rail until it gets there, and then the program should start. And there it goes, it started up. It's placing its pieces down and moving on. Awesome. So that wraps up the mod spotlight for Steve's carts. Like I said, the assembly cart is obviously the most complicated but also most impressive piece of this mod, but there's so many other cool things. The simple AI miner does a great job of collecting resources for you, as you can see here, and the cargo transfer manager thingy is really neat. All the different carts do some really impressive stuff, and I can imagine some amazing builds with this assembly miner. So hope you guys enjoyed checking out this mod spotlight. If you haven't tried Steve Carts, definitely check it out. The link is in the description of this video. And this is Direwolf20 signing off. Take it easy, everybody.